9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, it's John DiVito here at a kind of a crazy early time. I'm never up this early, but I couldn't sleep last night. So I was up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was kind of waiting around for the Ralph Williams show. I was going to go on today at 8:30, and I see that Ralph looks like he's not going on today. So I figured I'd go on a little bit early since I'm just kind of up and got nothing to do. So here I am. It is the usual freezing cold here in Massachusetts. I think right now it's 14 degrees. We got another 8 inches of snow again yesterday. So in the last 2 weeks, I don't even know, we've gotten like over 2 feet of snow. We have this mountain of snow at the end of my driveway that my kids are just going out and jumping off this thing. It's huge. It's like Mount Everest at the end of our driveway. It must now be at least, I don't know, 12 feet high. It's just huge. It's higher than our basketball hoop. It's crazy. So that is February in Massachusetts. But today I'm going to talk about a few different things. We had yesterday, or actually not yesterday, a couple of days ago now, one of the most amazing days that we have ever had in our life. It was so cool. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. And I also want to talk about a little bit about the Patriots game later on. Actually, not the Patriots game, the Bucs game. But for me, it's like the Patriots since my whole team is now playing for Tampa Bay. But for earlier this week, my son and I were on set of a major Netflix film that's coming out. And this was just unbelievable. What a day. For those of you that don't know, my oldest son is 18 years old. He's on the autism spectrum, and he is an actor. So he is trying to, he's been in 10 plays. He was the lead in a play back in December of last year. He was Buddy in Elf the Musical. He went viral on the internet, was on Boston news channels, was in the USA Today. It was all pretty amazing. So he decided he wanted to be, an actor. And again, obviously the odds are stacked against him. But there was going to be a movie being filmed in Massachusetts where I live. And it's a big movie. It's actually going to be on Netflix coming up probably like in a month or two. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Chris Evans, Meryl Streep, Kate Blanchett, Ariana Grande, Timothee Chalamet. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the different people that are in this. Jonah Hill is another one. So, hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And welcome to everybody coming in. This is kind of a different time for me. I'm not normally on this early in the morning, but figured I would give it a go since I've been up today. So anyway, going back to the movie. So for my son, Matt, he's had a lot of struggles in his life. And we put his name in for this movie. So I remember he and I were driving someplace back in like October. My phone rings in the car. I had no idea who it was. So I answer it. It was the casting company. So Judith Boulay is the Netflix casting director. So she ended up calling me and asked if we'd be interested in being in the movie. So, of course, yes, would be the answer. So I've been in a few myself, just kind of like in small roles and background stuff and things like that. So nothing extravagant, but it's just kind of cool to see the whole thing happen. So my son got chosen for this film, and it's going to be, like I said, on Netflix probably within the next month, I'm guessing. It's called Don't Look Up. And we got chosen to be in a scene back in November. So literally the week before the film, we had to go get a COVID test for the movie. And I tested negative, my son tested positive, unfortunately, for COVID back in November. So he literally lost his opportunity to be in this film. So as you can imagine, he was devastated. He was very upset. I felt really bad for him also. So, it was what it was. He went into quarantine. He had literally no symptoms, so he was asymptomatic of the disease. So, time went on. We went through November, went through December. So I think towards the end of maybe December, early January, I ended up writing this casting director again, just saying, I know this movie is still filming in Massachusetts. Matt is well past his quarantine now. He's now negative for COVID. If anything comes up, please think of us. We would love to maybe have Matt get in the film again. So I sent her a clip of Matt performing in Elf the Musical and one of the stories that went viral in Boston on TV4. So I sent her that clip so she could see it. So literally, we're sitting at home on a Saturday night, and it was 10 o'clock Eastern time, and no one ever calls our house at 10 o'clock. I'm old, so no one calls my house later anymore. So my cell phone rings. We're watching some movie, my wife and I and the kids. So I answer the phone. It's Judy Boulay from Netflix Casting. So now this is a woman, just to put it in perspective, who is a big-time casting director. I mean, I looked up her resume. She cast Jurassic World. She cast Castaway. I mean, all these big Hollywood movies. And she's, lives out in Los Angeles. And she's a big-time person, a big-time job. So she called our house on a Saturday night, and she, basically was talking to me for like 5 or 10 minutes, and, very nice lady. She asked if she could FaceTime with us, which we did. And then she said, okay, if you could, let me speak to Matt. So I give my phone to Matt, and she talked to Matt for almost a half an hour, FaceTiming with him, and had a great conversation with him. And then she puts me back on the phone, and she goes, all right, listen, I had a chance to talk to Matt, and we would love to cast him in the Netflix film again. And this time we're going to put him in a scene with Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and Timothee Chalamet. We were absolutely blown away. We were shocked. I mean, again, this is my 18-year-old son who has autism. He has Tourette's syndrome. He has OCD. This woman got on the phone and talked to my entire family, talked to all my children, talked to my wife, talked to me, and had a half an hour conversation with my Matt. She is without a doubt one of the kindest, nicest people I think I've ever met in my life. And she is a big-time Hollywood, casting director who didn't need to go out of her way, for my family who she doesn't know, my son who she doesn't know. So anyway, she cast my son in Don't Look Up with DiCaprio, Lawrence, and the whole cast that is just amazing, of incredible actors. So anyway, the day finally came. Oh my God, it was amazing. Unbelievably amazing. So a couple days ago, our day came. So we had a call time of 7:30 in the morning. All right. So we got up early. We had to have all of our clothes ready. We had to put together, both of us, several different wardrobes to get down to the film in. And my wife and my daughter had to get up and do our makeup for us. So they had to put foundation on. It's not something usually my son and I do, but they made us look as pretty as they could. So they put the foundation on us, and we drove down to the set. Now, the set was about an hour and 10 minutes from our house. So we had a pretty good drive, had to leave pretty early in the morning. So we arrived there a little bit before 7:30, and we got to the preparation area for the movie. They had set up at a mall near the set. And when we got there, I mean, I'd been in some smaller movies before, smaller like Lifetime movies and things like that. We got to this set. I mean, there must have been, I don't even know, like 100 trucks. There had to be like, I don't know, 30 campers. There was just a giant tent set up every place. It was just a huge, huge operation. So when we pulled in here, this was just a place where we had to take another rapid COVID test. So we got there, we signed up, we checked in, we got our badge, got like a little bracelet that we had to wear, and then we took our rapid COVID tests, and then we went and sat in our car in the parking lot. We got a call like 15 minutes later. We were both negative. Then they gave us the address of the first set that we were going to be on. So we ended up getting into our car, and we drove about 2 miles down the road to like a strip mall where they had like it looked like it was maybe like an abandoned Kmart or something like that. So in the first scene, we ended up just driving in our cars. So we were in our car. They were filming a scene outside. Now, keep in mind, this movie, Don't Look Up, on Netflix, is about two, amateur astronomers discover comets are going to come down and hit the earth and kill everybody. And it's supposed to be, I guess, like a comedy, like a satire. So I think it's going to be kind of a funny movie. So when we got there, we, pulled in our car and they told us where to set up, and they gave us a little walkie-talkie in the car. So they told us when to go, and they had all the people, including Jennifer Lawrence, were outside the store. And they had, it was kind of funny, they had people with giant carts full of toilet paper and paper towels, just like you'd see during the pandemic, right? And it was really funny. So we ended up driving around the parking lot, I think, on like 6 or 7 takes, and we drove right by the camera. So if any of you happen to see this movie, look for a silver GMC Acadia, and you'll see me driving and my son in the passenger seat. We drive right by the camera. So I think you'll probably see us on camera in that scene. So we got done with that. And then we were sent to like a holding room, and we spent a few hours in this holding room just kind of waiting for the next scene and the next instructions. So we had several people come over to us. Judy, the casting director, this amazing woman from Netflix, called us like 2 or 3 times during the day, checked to see how our day was going, spoke to Matt. She was just wonderful. And I'm going to get into talking a little bit more about her in a second, because she just blew me away. And it kind of goes into my feeling on, sometimes we get really negative in life about people. We get really negative in life about certain circumstances, but there are kind people in this world. And she was amazingly kind to my son. She was amazingly kind to my family. And this is like a famous woman who is very well known and casts major motion pictures in Hollywood. And she was just wonderful. I mean, she was ending the phone calls with us with, "I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day." She could not have been nicer to us. Just an amazing, amazing lady. So for anybody that listens to this podcast, whether you're in the live, whether you download, I get a lot of downloads on this podcast. So check out Judith Boulay, IMDb page. Look her up. Just an amazing lady. I mean, I could not say enough about her. So anyway, we're in the holding room. We're waiting for the second scene. We didn't know what we were going to do on the second scene. We were originally told we were going to be directly in a scene with Leonardo DiCaprio, which was amazing. But what it turned out to be, and there is a good story about the third scene, but what it turned out to be is they had filmed a scene inside of a liquor store. And I don't know what happened inside the liquor store because we weren't there when they filmed it. But then they called us and like 8 other people to come over to the liquor store. So we all went over to the liquor store, and my son and I were called inside immediately. So we found out that they were going to be filming like exterior shots for this film. So they put my son and I, right near the cash register. They handed me a paper bag with a 6-pack of beer inside of it. And they told us that we were going to be the only 2 people walking out the door as they filmed the exterior shot. So they had cameras right in our face, and there were like 8 other people inside that ended up not being in the scene. But they gave us the opportunity to, that they yelled action. They told us to go. And all we had to do was basically walk out the door and kind of turn left and go towards our car. So again, in the scene, if you watch this movie, don't look out. You can look for me. I'm a big, tall, bald guy, 6'4". I was a football player in college, so I'm easy to spot. And my son was next to me. So that's my son, Matt, and he's the guy with autism. So there's going to be a really close-up shot, I believe, on the 2 of us kind of coming out of the liquor store, probably before they show the liquor store scene, because they filmed it afterwards, but we're part of the exterior shot. So that was really cool. So we ended up going back into holding again, and we were hopeful that we were going to be in the scene with Leonardo DiCaprio. But we had Judy call us, and they had originally planned on having 8 other people in the store for the scene with DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and Timothee Chalamet. So she called me and said, unfortunately, the director decided they're only going to use 2 people in addition to the stars. So they're not going to have room for you in that scene. And we were disappointed, but it was still a great day. So she said, listen, what we're going to do is, even though you can't be in that scene, we're going to send you up to the set, and we're going to get you in the set, and you can stand there and watch them film it and be up close and personal with the stars. So at that point, we're both like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. So we go up to the set with like 2 of the producers. We walk into this grocery store, which is, I guess, in the film going to be called Calmart, is I guess what they're going to call it. So we walk into the building, and we just sit there for like 10, 15 minutes. So this woman comes and gets us and brings us down one of the aisleways, and she put us in this really good location to kind of view them filming this whole scene. But then she said, the best part about this is when you stand here, you're going to literally see the stars come right up to you, and they're going to stand here, and then they're going to walk over to where they film. So you're going to get really up close and personal. So we're standing there and hanging out, and then my son was the first to notice Timothee Chalamet. I didn't really know who he was. I'm older, but he's like, I guess, a young heartthrob. He was in Little Women, the movie recently. He's a young guy, and I guess all the girls like him. So my son recognized him right away and pointed him out to me, which I thought was cool. But then for me, being an older guy, all of a sudden we're standing there, and out of nowhere, Leonardo DiCaprio just walks right up, and he is literally 3 feet away from us. And I was starstruck. I was like, holy crap, that's Leonardo DiCaprio. And he stood there for like 20 minutes, just right next to us, kind of gave us a little look and a nod. And, I had my phone, and they really don't allow pictures on movie sets. So I did not want to pull my phone out and take any chance of getting in trouble. And it's considered very unprofessional to pull your camera out and take a picture. So I didn't want to do that. But anyway, he was literally like right there. And it was funny. We kind of watched them. They were putting his microphone on him, so he had to like unzip his pants and pull his pants down. So I could have gotten a good money shot of Leo with his pants down while they put his microphone on. But he seemed like, an everyday guy, seemed like a regular guy, seemed like a really cool guy. He was chatting with the people that were, getting them ready for the scene and all that stuff. And, just seemed like a, regular guy. But Jesus, it was Leonardo DiCaprio that was right there. So Jennifer Lawrence arrives at the scene or at the set. And it was funny. He walked back down the aisle to greet her, and she greeted him with this huge hug. They looked like they were really good friends. And I've heard a lot of stories about Jennifer Lawrence being like a difficult person on set and things like that. So we didn't know what to expect from her. But she looked like a really kind, nice, happy person. But in my opinion, a person that maybe is a little bit shy and not used to the limelight. So that's kind of what, and maybe she doesn't love the limelight that much. But she gave Leonardo DiCaprio a big hug. And when they was, in between shoots of filming the scene, they were like joking around. They were being funny. They were laughing, and they were having a good time. They looked like they were pretty good friends. So it was really cool to be inside and see, 2 of the biggest stars in Hollywood just like feet away from you, interacting and talking and joking. And you could hear everything they were saying, and they were really funny. So even the guy, Timothee Chalamet, he was pretty funny. He looked like he was kind of like the rebel of the movie. He had long hair and kind of grungy clothes or whatever. And it was cool to see the director like shouting out instructions to them. But the director obviously knew he was dealing with 3 accomplished actors. So he wasn't giving them a ton of direction. He was asking them to improv and do things that they felt would be funny. So, they were shopping in the store, and it was funny. They made an announcement because it's supposed to be, I guess, a satire comedy about meteors hitting the earth and ending humanity. So the director was the voice over the PA in the store during the scene, and his big announcement was, okay, we're going to be closing in 10 minutes. A comet's about to hit the earth. It was kind of funny to hear that. So they start walking, there's this woman running out of the store full speed, and DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and Timothee Chalamet are walking together, and I guess he had to yell something out. They had something written in the script, but they asked him to like freelance it and kind of do some stuff on his own. So he's yelling out, hey, why don't we make some deviled eggs? Hey, why don't we make this? Hey, why don't we make s'mores? And it was funny. The whole cast was laughing, and it was just so cool to be a part of this experience, to be that close to such amazing movie stars, and to experience it with my son, who has struggled, from day one in his life. He's had a very difficult life. At the age of 3, diagnosed with autism. A little bit later on, we found out he had Tourette's, OCD, and ADHD. School's been a struggle for him. Life's been a struggle for him. Him having any type of friends has been almost non-existent in his life until he's, made it to the school he's at right now. So to see this kid who has finally found something that he's good at and something he loves to do, being in 10 plays, musicals, he's got a great voice. He can sing. Getting the lead in Elf the Musical as Buddy, and now getting a chance to be in 2 scenes of a major film with one of the best actors in the world. I mean, as a father, you really can't, ask for anything more. It was just such, a great feeling of happiness, for my son to be able to experience this. And it was kind of funny. He's a guy that generally doesn't show a lot of emotion. He does here and there, but he usually keeps things close to his vest. And as we were in watching the big scene, with DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and Timothee Chalamet, he was kind of keeping his opinions to himself a little bit. He wasn't really saying too much, didn't show a lot of emotion, and was trying to be very professional. And it was funny because I kept asking him, I'm like, oh my God, Matt, look, that's Leonardo DiCaprio right next to us. He's like, I know, Dad. Hey, Matt, there's Jennifer Lawrence. Holy crap. He's like, wow, right? So, we were in there for, I don't know, a good hour. And then we decided to leave after we'd seen them, do the scene several times. So we walk out of the store and my son takes off his mask. We had to wear a mask and a visor. So he takes them both off, looks at me and goes, Dad, that was awesome. He was just the biggest smile I think I've seen out of this kid in like a year. I mean, he was just blown away to be a part of this. So again, for the people just tuning in, my son and I were in a Netflix movie earlier this week. Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Chris Evans, Timothee Chalamet, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, Kate Blanchett, Matthew Perry, Ariana Grande. I mean, the list goes on and on and on for the people that are in this film. It's going to be on Netflix sometime in the next month or so. And, we're not big movie stars. I mean, I have this little podcast and I've been in a few movies just as, background work and stuff like that. So it's been nothing spectacular. But to have this experience for my son who has struggled so much in his life was just amazing. So welcome to everybody who's coming in. I'm just kind of telling my story and just chatting a little bit about, what happened to us in this movie. But the point of the whole story is, my son, Matt, who is 18, has been up against it his whole life. And, it does show that if you're a parent of a child that struggles, or even if you're a person that happens to struggle, because we all have our struggles, we all have, things that we have to deal with. We all have challenges. Some people may have more than others. If you believe in yourself or if you believe in your child and you give them the opportunity to live out their dreams, it does show that dreams are possible. I wish I knew this more as a younger man. When I was younger, I had some talent in sports and baseball and some other things like that. And I, at one point, wanted to be a movie star in my life. And I just didn't have the confidence. I didn't believe it was possible. I didn't believe that things like that happened to people like me. Now, I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but that's just how I felt. I didn't feel like it was possible. I didn't think those things would ever happen to me. But as I've gotten older and as I've seen more how the world works, I do think the most important thing that you can have in this life is persistence and grit. If you're willing to set goals for yourself and just go after them without fear of failure, and you're willing to give your best, then truly in this life, anything is possible. The biggest debilitator we have in this life is being afraid of failing, afraid of what people think, being afraid of being seen in a light where, you're not at your best, I guess. I don't know. But I think as a society, all of us, if you want to live a truly happy life, if you have a dream, anybody that's going to listen to me today in this live, anyone that listens to me, in the downloads that I get, I mean, don't live your life in fear. Don't live your life being afraid to fail. Don't live your life thinking that you can't do it. Set your goals. If you have a dream, go after it. Because as far as we know, we only have this one life. We only have this one opportunity to live the things that we want to do, to live the dreams that we want to do. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do it today. Because, for me, a lot of times I would keep saying, well, I can do it tomorrow. I can do it next week. I can do it next month. I can do it next year. Next thing you know, that turns into next decade. And, here I am now. I'm 53 years old. Because of this pandemic, I started this podcast back in March. I always wanted to be a broadcaster. And again, am I ever going to be a famous broadcaster? No, I'm not. But, I have this podcast where I've got 22,000 downloads. I've had over 200 shows now. And I've developed, at different times, a pretty decent following. This is kind of a new time for me, so I'm in a weird time slot. I know Ralph Williams usually is on at this time. But, I think you really have to, if you have dreams, go after it. Don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of being seen as, what's wrong with him? Why would he do that? That's just stupid, because people are so willing to judge and people are so willing to tear you down if you try something new, but you really can't be a prisoner of what other people think. You just have to go after it. And I wish I knew that as a younger person. I really do, because I think in some ways my life may have been different than it is. And, not that my life is bad. I'm content with my life. I'm happy with my life. I'm married. I've got 4 kids. I have a good job, but I can't honestly say that I really went after kind of like a wild and crazy dream with everything I had. And that, I think, in the end will be a regret. Is it something that makes me unhappy? No, it doesn't. But I wish I had gone after one of those things that I really wanted down deep without fear and really just went after it, because if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. That's okay. I mean, I am lucky. I mean, the baseball thing was gone. I stopped playing baseball when I was relatively young, like in my late teens, and I was a good baseball player. And I did that to get back at my father. He wanted to be a baseball player, and he pushed me too much, and I ended up quitting baseball just to piss him off. And that was just stupid teenage move. I was able to play sports in college, so I did play football at the college level. But that was never my passion. Baseball was more of my sports passion. And then, when I became, out of college, I graduated college, and at about 22, I wanted to be in movies. And again, I never really had that courage to go after it. I should have moved to LA, gotten into acting classes, because I took theater in college, and I just didn't do it because I didn't feel like that's what people did. So, for me now, when I got over 40, I was a little bit more established in my career. So that's when I got into, I think, 5 films. The film I was in the other day was my 6th film, and then getting my son into his first film was just amazing. It was such a cool feeling. So for the people coming in, I was talking about my son Matt, who's 18 years old. He has autism. He was on set earlier this week in the Leonardo DiCaprio film Don't Look Up, which is going to be on Netflix. He was amazing. He had such a great day, and as a father, I couldn't have been happier. But again, I want to talk about the woman that put him in this position, because I cannot thank this woman enough. The woman that cast him, she is Netflix casting director Judith Boulay is her name. And oh my God, I mean, this woman, if you look at her resume, look her up on IMDb. Her last name is Boulay, I think it is. So it's Judith Boulay. I mean, she's cast, Jurassic World. She's cast Castaway. She's cast literally dozens upon dozens of big Hollywood movies. I mean, she is a well-known casting director. So I see the question down there. I'm not taking a call right now, but yes, I do act. But my son is the one that's really the actor, and this was more about him. But so we're talking about, Judith Boulay, the casting director. Like I said, she called my family's home. She FaceTimed with my son. She is literally, in my life, one of the kindest people I think I've ever met in my life. She went out on a limb to help my son. She went out on a limb to cast him in this film. And it was just an amazing thing for her to do. I mean, she's a big Los Angeles casting director who was, one day when we called her, she's like, listen, John, I'm really sorry. I can't talk right now. I'm going to the airport to pick up Meryl Streep. So I laughed a little bit. And I said, I get it. Meryl Streep, John DeVito, you kind of have to make your priorities. And she laughed, and she's like, oh, no, it's not that way. I'm like, I know it is. I'm just joking. I get it, though. So she, she's a big person, but man, what a heart. I mean, she called our family. She was telling us, oh, I love your son. I love your family. We're going to get him in this film. And, she was just an amazing person. And she did everything she said she was going to do. And while she was extremely busy, she was going out of her way to call us, to email us, to text me, just to make sure that we were all set and we were going to be there. The day we were on set, she was calling people in there to come over and talk to us, telling people who we were. When we went to the set to watch Leonardo DiCaprio film with Jennifer Lawrence and Timothee Chalamet, I mean, we were guests of the producer up on that set. I mean, it was just amazing. And to be in the two scenes of the movie, I'm hoping that they can see my son really well in the film. I think when we walk out of that liquor store in the film, you'll get a pretty good look at it. And I hope so for his sake, because it meant so much to him to be here. So anyway, it was a pretty amazing week for us, a pretty amazing way to start, the week. And so proud of my son for being in his first film. So if you all get a chance, when Don't Look Up comes on the Netflix, check it out. If you see us in the film, let us know. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text. You can always email me at thejohndevitoshow@gmail.com. And so hopefully you guys all get a chance, because it looks like it's going to be a very good little film. So another thing I want to talk about today is also, I haven't gotten a chance to talk about the Super Bowl yet. As you know, for people that tune into my show, I did a Super Bowl preview show, and I called the victory for Tampa Bay. And this isn't going to be too long of a segment, but I just want to recap the game a little bit and talk about who won and all that good stuff. So, I gave my preview of the game. I did pick Tampa Bay win, and my score was 34-28. So, Kansas City didn't perform as well as I expected them to perform. But, I don't think there's any argument now for the people out there that Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the history of the game. I mean, he went out and he just played so well in that game. It was awesome to see him throw 2 touchdown passes to Rob Gronkowski. And, while I don't dislike Mahomes, I think people are getting a little bit too premature in calling him the new GOAT. He's a young guy. He's played well. But before you can start being called like a GOAT in any capacity whatsoever, you have to be in the NFL more than 5 years. I mean, Brady's been there for 20 years, consistently performing, 7 Super Bowl wins out of 10 years. And it still breaks my heart that he's no longer a New England Patriot because I am in the Boston area. But for the first time in my life, I've always been a Patriots fan. I am now rooting for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And when Brady retires, I'll go back to being a full-fledged Patriots fan. But I can't root against that man. I cannot root against a man who turned football around for the people in New England. For a very long time, the New England Patriots were the joke of the NFL. They were a terrible team. And it was horrible to watch them play, because they were like the Jets. They lost every game. You could go to the stadium the day of the game and buy 50-yard line seats and all that good stuff. And, for me, I have a very hard time, just agreeing with Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft letting Tom Brady go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It made no sense to me. I mean, this guy was the backbone of the franchise, and you still have a lot of people up here in New England, a lot of fans that are angry at Tom Brady. And I just don't understand it. I mean, I get why Kraft and Belichick decided not to offer him a contract. They wanted to rebuild. They wanted to have a younger team. I get why they did it. But, I mean, to be mad at Tom Brady wanted to play football. He has made that clear that he wanted to play until he was at least 45 years old. And, they gave him no team around him. He had no running game. He had no receivers. And they didn't offer him a contract. So how can you be mad at him? He made it clear that he wanted to play football. And the Patriots just did not offer him a contract. So he decided to continue playing football like he said he wanted to do. He went to a team that had an amazing team with a great running back, good receivers, a very good defense. And he gave that team the leadership that they needed in order to win a Super Bowl. So it was amazing to watch. I'm very happy for Tom Brady. I'm still sad the Patriots let him go, and we're going to have to watch him the next couple of years. But I'm telling you, I think my wife and I and my kids, we're going to have to go out and buy Tom Brady, Tampa Bay shirts now, since, we're now Bucs fans. I mean, I'll be rooting for him again next year to win another Super Bowl. And he is just, in my opinion, I mean, for the people out there that argue about Tom Brady not being the greatest of all time, I mean, come on. Come on. I mean, there's no argument now. There's no way you can even make an argument that anyone was even close to him. I mean, Joe Montana was great, but he was no Tom Brady. I mean, let's face it. Tom Brady is by far the greatest of all time, and no one can argue against that at this point. Now, I'm looking also at Bill Belichick. Like people have been saying for a long time that Bill Belichick was responsible for Tom Brady's success. Well, I was looking at Bill Belichick's record, his coaching record. Now, when you look at his record without Tom Brady, Bill Belichick was 60-71. So he won 60 games and lost 71 games when coaching football games without Tom Brady as the quarterback. So I think now almost Tom Brady, by winning the Super Bowl, has put an asterisk next to Bill Belichick's name, because now you're starting to wonder, boy, was Bill Belichick behind all the success, or was this primarily Tom Brady? Because again, you had Brady go to Tampa Bay with a coach who was certainly not known as a Bill Belichick, and they won the Super Bowl. So you have to kind of wonder, looking at Belichick's lack of success without Brady, would Belichick be considered this great coach if he hadn't had Tom Brady as his quarterback for all these years? So who knows? Who knows what the deal is with that? But I had to comment a little bit on the Super Bowl. It was an amazing game. I did not expect Tampa Bay to blow out, Kansas City like they did. And I think, again, it silenced a lot of people who thought Mahomes was going to come into that game and just absolutely, destroy Tom Brady. So pretty good game, fun game, and we'll just see how things go. So, hey, kind of some cool stuff coming up soon. I think in 2 weeks, we're going to be going to Florida for a few days to go to Red Sox spring training. And my youngest two sons, I have 4 kids. My oldest, Matt, that's who I talked about earlier. He was in the movie with DiCaprio, which was amazing. I have a daughter, Caitlin, and who's amazing also. She's 15 years old. She's just the coolest girl ever. And then my 2 youngest boys, Ethan and Brandon, they both play baseball. So we live near Worcester, Massachusetts. And for those of you that are in different parts of the world or the country, Worcester is about an hour and 15 minutes outside of Boston. It's the second biggest city in Massachusetts. And my sons play baseball on a travel team in Worcester. So one of the coaches that works at this facility was a Red Sox player. So some of you may remember, older people in here anyway, may remember a catcher by the name of Rich Gedman. He played for the Red Sox in the 80s and 90s. Very good ball player. He's from the city of Worcester, and he actually trains my sons in catching. So he is one of the coaches for the Red Sox. He coaches hitters for the AAA baseball team, which is in Worcester, Massachusetts. So we're hoping to maybe get down to spring training and get a glimpse of Coach Gedman and see if our kids get to possibly meet some of the Red Sox players coming up in a couple of weeks. So for me, it's going to be good just to get away from all this cold, crappy weather. I'm tired of the cold. Do we have any people in here from like warm climates? Anyone in here that lives in a place where the weather's nice and warm? Because right now I'm looking outside. It's just starting to get light out. It's still dark here in Massachusetts. In the last 2 weeks, we've gotten over 2 feet of snow. We got 8 more inches of snow yesterday. We have a mountain of snow at the end of our driveway that must be, I don't even know, 13 to 15 feet high. It's taller than our basketball hoop. So it's just amazing how big it is. But the temperature is about 14 degrees Fahrenheit right now in Massachusetts, and it is just chilly. So I'm looking forward to some warm weather. I'm looking forward to getting out and maybe enjoying some sun and some some beautiful weather. So we'll see what happens with our trip. But all in all, things here are pretty good. And I just wanted to get on today. I'm not going to do a long show, but I just wanted to talk about how amazing it was to experience that film, to be so close to someone like Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Timothee Chalamet, and to have a casting director that went out of her way to be kind to my son. He wants to be a professional actor. I mean, whether or not he gets that opportunity, that's going to be up to him. He's going to have to really want it because it's a very difficult business to get into. But for him to at least get into this one film and being a big film, I mean, it was just such a good experience for him. And even for me, I mean, it was a cool experience to be there, because I would say when Leonardo DiCaprio came out, he was like 3 feet away from me. I was just like, oh my God, that is like, one of my favorite actors, one of the biggest actors in the world, and he's right there. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see all that stuff. So hopefully everyone's doing well in here. Hopefully everyone is having a good winter. I know we've got some people that come in from other parts of the world and they live in warmer climates and all that good stuff. But here right now, it's cold, but we're living the good life. My wife and 2 of my kids are gone this week. They're away in Florida. Today it's going to be, I think, 83 degrees where they are. So I'm sure that's going to be nice and warm, and and they're going to be happy today. Unfortunately for me, I had to stay closer to home because I've got this national sales meeting that's going on for my job. So, hey, listen, we've talked about the movie my son was in, talked a little bit about the Super Bowl. I also wanted to address a little bit about some of the things that are going on in this country right now. So, I'm really not paying attention too much to politics right now. I had my fill of politics during the presidential election, the whole Biden versus Trump thing. I have all my personal feelings on how that thing went down, but I don't want to get there, and talk too much about that. But the one thing that I'm seeing in the news right now, and I haven't really paid too much attention to it, but I'm seeing that the impeachment trial of Donald Trump is now in the Senate, and they're debating whether or not that has merit and whether or not they should go forward. I just personally don't understand it. I really don't. You hear the new party, the Democratic Party now is in power of everything. They've got the presidency, they've got the House, and they've got like kind of a tie in the Senate. So they've got power pretty much everywhere, and they can make policy as they want right now in this country. But the president gets on and he talks about how he wants unity in the country. He wants to bring people back together. He wants people in the U.S. to come together, to unify. We've had such a divided nation in the last 4 years, 8 years, however long it's been. I think it was divided before Donald Trump was president. I think it was divided under Obama and even further back than that. But, he preaches to everybody that he wants unity and he wants people to come together. But in the same breath, he is doing whatever he can to destroy Trump, the man that 72 million Americans voted for. Many people believe that the election wasn't fair, and he is looking to do whatever he can to destroy him and also label anybody that supported him as a redneck, as ignorant, as a hick, as someone that was an insurrectionist against the country. And for me, I just don't understand the theory. You look at what happened at the Capitol back on January 6th. Was it right? No, it was not. I mean, I don't think that Trump incited riot. I've seen the speeches. He was encouraging people to peacefully protest before the protest happens. When you watch the videos of the protest, you literally see police officers pulling the gates back, welcoming people in to the Capitol building. And if I had been there with my kids and I had a police officer welcoming me in, I probably would have went in. I wouldn't have thought anything of it. I mean, if the policemen are saying, "Come on in," okay, great, I'm allowed to come in, I would have gone in. I wouldn't have thought anything about it. So, the Democrats, for whatever reason, have decided to say that the people at the Capitol were insurrectionists. They were, un-American. They are not for what this country stands for. But then, when you look over the summer at all the riots that happened in this country, you had the Antifa riots that happened all over the country, where people were burning down buildings, they were looting stores, they were attacking police officers. People were injured, people were murdered. There were billions of dollars worth of damage done to different cities around this country. And what happened then? They talk about Trump was inciting a riot in Washington when he was telling people to peacefully protest. But when these riots were happening, you had Nancy Pelosi, you had Maxine Waters, you had Ayanna Pressley, you had what's the other woman, Elon Omar, whatever her name is. They were all praising the rioters. They were telling them to continue. They were telling them not to stop. They were encouraging the burning of cities. They were encouraging the riots. They were encouraging the destruction. So I don't understand how Donald Trump can be vilified as this person that incited what happened on January 6th. When you watch the speech, he was telling people to peacefully protest. But then over the summer, when we had Antifa rallies or riots across the country that were far more dangerous and far more destructive than what happened in January 6th, the Democratic leaders were encouraging the violence. Pelosi was telling people to continue to riot. One of them mentioned, I can't remember if it was Presley or if it was Maxine Waters, were telling them to burn down cities. So for me, this whole impeachment thing is ridiculous. Trump is out of office. He's no longer president. And again, he's 74 years old. He's most likely not going to run again when he's 78 years old. I know they're trying to prevent him from ever being in office again. But I'll tell you, what we're seeing in this country right now is we are seeing, in my opinion, what is the great takeover attempt by the left against the right. It looks like the left is trying to completely take over this country, and they're trying to transform the way this country operates. I've seen, I don't even know how many executive orders were signed now by Biden. I think somewhere in the ballpark of 50 executive orders. We've never seen anything like that by a new president. They're making laws against punishment for people who buy ammunition and weapons in this country. I get it that you want to declare war on the gun industry, but again, in this country, we do have a thing called the Constitution, and one of the amendments says very clearly that we have the right to bear arms in this country, and they're trying to make that illegal now too. And you have to be very, very fearful of a government who is completely trying to control the people, trying to take away their weapons, because again, once the people no longer have weapons to fight back, then the government is in complete control of all of us. And it's very scary to me to see that this is the way this country's going. So for me, this impeachment hearing is a big sham. And if Trump is literally impeached for what happened on January 6th, then I think we've completely lost all sense in this country right now. And I don't know where we're going to go. I am literally, fearful of the direction the United States of America is heading right now. So I'm hoping it doesn't go through. And again, in 4 years, I don't even necessarily want Trump to run again. I'd rather see some new blood come in. And I think that's one of the things we need in this country is no one's ever talking about this. But in this country, we have the presidents who can serve 2 4-year terms. That's the maximum. They gave them a term limit because they don't want the president to have too much power. A president with too much power is a dangerous thing. And I think everybody would agree with that. But if that's the case, now, if that's the philosophy behind our government and people feel that the president has too much power, then wouldn't it make sense to also do the same to the Senate, to Congress, and to all the other politicians in this organization? If a president can only have 2 4-year terms, a total of 8 years, then why do you have people like Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters, all these different people that have been in office for 20, 30, 40, and 50 years? To me, it is just not right. And I don't think this country will ever be a country of the people again until we have term limits for all politicians. We cannot continue to allow this to happen. These people have become dictators. They've become royalty in this country. I mean, if you're a member of Congress, Senate, House, whatever, if you're a member of any of these branches, then you're making a very good salary, $200,000 a year. You get health care like no other American gets. You get the best of the best. You get a lifetime pension. You get all the benefits of really what to me seems like royalty, when in actuality, you're supposed to be a servant of the people. You're supposed to be a representative of the people. These people in the House and Senate are no longer representatives of the people. They are dictators. They are kings and queens. They are people that are basically telling us how we are going to live. They are telling us the way it's going to be. And again, this is not how this country was founded. The United States of America was not meant to be a dictatorship. We are supposed to have freedom in this country. And, for all the Americans out there, open your eyes. Open your eyes. We're losing our freedoms. We're losing them every day. We're losing them every day. They're taking away more and more from us, and we are allowing it to happen. We, the people in this country, have the power. And I'm not preaching right here for Democrat or Republican. Quite frankly, I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. I don't like any of the Democrats. I don't like any of the Republicans. They are all part of one group, the wealthy, the elite, and they are controlling the rest of us. They are dividing and conquering the American people. They have us fighting. We're fighting all the time. We're fighting whether or not we're Democrat or Republican. We're fighting whether we're black or we're white. We're fighting whether we're men or women. We're fighting, whether we're gay or straight. We're fighting whether we believe in abortion or we don't believe in abortion. We're fighting on whether we believe in the right to bear arms or not to bear arms. We are fighting about everything. The wealthy and the elite in this country have done exactly what they wanted to do. And we are following along like good little soldiers. We are divided. We are conquered. We are not united, and that is how they want us. So as we get on social media and we fight with each other, and as we show up at family Thanksgivings and we fight with our relatives, we are doing exactly what the powerful want. Because as we are separated, as we are being controlled, we are being told how we are going to live our lives, and they are telling us how to live our lives. They are maintaining the power, and we have none. So it is what it is. That's where we are in America right now. Nobody's willing to stand up to stop it. We have 336 million Americans living in this country, and we have 535, maybe 600 politicians that are making the rules for all of us and dictating to us as to the way things are going to be. I'll tell you right now, the only reason January 6th is being prosecuted, this has nothing to do with Trump, because if you watch the speech Trump gave, he did not incite violence. He told his group to peacefully march to the State House, keep it peaceful, don't incite violence. He made it very clear, if you watch the whole speech, that he was not inciting anything. What happened that day was the politicians that have all the power got scared that day. You had people that came in, and some of the people that came in were unruly. There's no doubt about that. You see the clown that was carrying, was it Pelosi's lectern across the across the floor. They were stealing laptops. They were doing damage to the building. There were a handful of clowns that went in there and just did stupid things, and each and every one of those morons should be prosecuted for what they did. There's no doubt about that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts as to that. Just like the people that participated in the Black Lives Matter rallies and the Antifa rallies that happened all through the summer, the people that were looting stores, the people that were burning down buildings, the people that incited violence also should have been arrested and put in prison for what they did, right? But, it's just crazy the way things are working. What happened that day at the State House is you had politicians that were afraid of losing their power. They were afraid they were going to be overthrown. They were going to be afraid that they were going to be taken out of office, and they were afraid that our government, their control vehicle, was going to be taken away from them. Now, I never would ever advocate violence. I think violence is a terrible thing. I don't think it should be ever a part of any type of rising up. I mean, sometimes it does happen that way, but I think that as a country, we need to pull together and let the politicians know that we are running this country, that we are in control of the country. We are in control of the way our country should be run. And we have to let the politicians know that we want term limits for everybody. They need to start representing us. We are not here for them. They are here for us. And if we continue to, I think, usher them out after 4, 6, or 8 years, then we'll have a constant new stream of people coming in, and it'll be more difficult, I think, for corruption to take root. So anyway, that's just kind of how I feel about what's going on there. So in today's show, we talked a little bit about my son Matt's experience on the movie set, which was absolutely amazing. He was on with Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, and Timothee Chalamet. It was a lifetime experience for him, one that we will never forget. I mean, he was just amazing. It was amazing to be on set, and it was just an incredible day for all of us. And we will never forget the kindness of Judith Boulay, the casting director for Netflix. Secondly, we talked about the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, I don't know how anyone could argue against him being the GOAT. He is without a doubt the greatest of all time. He's an amazing quarterback. And even though he is no longer with my New England Patriots, I will forever be a Tom Brady fan. So for as long as he's in Tampa Bay, I am a Tampa Bay Bucs fan. I'm going to buy my Brady Tampa Bay jersey. I think my family members are all going to get them as well. And I could not be happier for he and Gronkowski. They deserve all the success they get. And hopefully my Patriots can rebuild. I mean, I'm not rooting against Bill Belichick. I'm not rooting against the Patriots because I'm still a Patriots fan. But, man, they have a lot of work to do. They got rid of the greatest quarterback in the history of the game, and they didn't have a plan to replace him. Their plan, Cam Newton, certainly did not work out, and now they are still stuck without a quarterback. So hopefully Mr. Belichick has a plan, because if not, we're going to be sinking back into some seasons of losing here in New England. But that's okay. We can still watch Tampa Bay. And then I want to just talk a little bit about the impeachment after that. So we talked about the impeachment hearings that are going on right now. I think it's crazy. Joe Biden keeps talking about unity, and really what he means is conformity. That's kind of what we're looking at. So I don't even think it's constitutional for them to, impeach Trump now that he's out of office, but they're going to continue to try to put a dagger through his chest until they have nothing left in their chamber. So hopefully this thing ends. Hopefully they throw that garbage out and we can actually get back to being a country again. And I don't think Joe Biden's going to have anything to do with unifying, but I think we, the people, need to find a way to pull together. We, the people, need to find a way to work together, to put aside our differences, and hopefully create a more United States. So anyway, that's it for me today for the John DeVito Show. I have my national sales meeting all day today, so I get on nice and early. I saw Ralph Williams wasn't on. I don't know if he's come on since I've been on, but I want to thank you all for joining me. I appreciate you coming in. If this was your first time to my show, please give me a follow and come back and join me again. Okay? So thank you very much. I hope everyone has a great day. Take care now.